Welcome everybody to the Chess Lab. Fabiano Caruana is at it again, and he's not against a random player, he's against Hans Niemann. Everyone talks about him, and so you know, it's gonna be a cool video. E4 by Fabiano, E5 by Hans Niemann, knight to F3, knight to C6, and bishop to B5. The Ruy Lopez. I want to remind you that yesterday Fabiano Caruana played against Ivan Saric. Beautiful game. Fabiano won. I showed the game on my channel. You can find the video if you search for it. And so you know, if he wins, he'll go over 2800 rating. So that's pretty cool. So okay, knight f6 by Hans, d3 by Fabiano, defending the pawn. You know, this is one of those moments when you realize that in front of you there is a super strong player, like attacking the pawn, knight f6, and he saw it. That's another level. So bishop to c5 by Hans, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, and here, you know, white can take a pawn, but obviously Fabiano preferred to play h3, preventing the bishop from coming and pinning the knight. Now, if you play knight takes e5, you can feel free to stop the video and find why this is terribly wrong. I'll just show you. The reason is queen to d4, attacking the knight and attacking the pawn. But it's funny because this variation is a little bit more complex. I already showed this variation in the past, but I just want to show it again. Maybe you didn't saw it, or maybe you didn't remember it. Bishop e3, right? Queen takes e5. And yes, black is winning a piece, but there is a trick, d4. And here, this is a fork, obviously, and if you play bishop to b4, there simply follows c3, and you have two pieces hanging at the same time. So here the best move is queen takes c4, and after d takes c5, queen takes g2. Speaking about pieces, the pieces are the same, but when it comes to pawns and the position, the structure, black is totally crushing. That's the issue. So this will be totally winning for black. That's why Fabiano played the h3, best move. I mean, not necessarily best move, but a great move. And here, knight to d7. This is very typical now, defending the pawn, and in general, you know, improving the position of the position in general. So, did I just say improving the position of the position in general? Alright, bro, this is some top-level commentary. So, okay, knight c3, short castle by Hans, bishop to e3, trying to create some tensions with the bishops, and here bishop to d6. Again, all these moves are very typical. Short castle by Fabiano, and here rook to e8. Now, reaching this position, you look at this and you're like, okay, like, yes, black has some ruined structure, but at the same time, this is helping black in a way, because if white tries to go aggressive with the pawns, well, there are always gonna be a couple of black pawns preventing white from expanding in the center, which is good for black. But here Fabiano came up with a very nice idea. You have to identify which piece is struggling a little bit. Now, this knight is definitely not having his best life, but at the same time is in an important square. Why? Because he's defending the pawn on e4. And here I'm gonna take a little bit of quite some time to understand this position a little bit deeper. So if you're bored, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. So basically, again, the knight is defending e4 because Fabiano wants to play d4 in the future. But after d4, obviously, he takes d4, opening up the e file, reason why Hans played rook to e8. And so, you know, may seem a little bit weird, right? But this knight is actually very well placed, again, because he's defending e4. On the other hand, this knight here is not really well placed. Cannot go in the center, cannot take this pawn, and you may say, hey, he can jump over to the king side, but not really, because on h4 there is the queen. On g5, allow me to show you this very quick variation. Here you're threatening queen h5 with terrible consequences, but here black can simply play knight f8, and everything falls into place. The fact that now the rook and the bishop are defending the pawn allows black to move it away. The fact that rook e8 was played allows black to have this square. The fact that the knight moved away, relinquishing some tension against this pawn, allows black to play knight to f8. The bishop is open up, and after you play this move queen to h5, obviously h7 is defended. Here it simply follows g6. And here actually the engine starts to think that maybe black is ultra tiny slightly better. So okay, this knight is not going anywhere on the king side, not doing anything in the center, and so because of these reasons Fabiano played knight to d2 with the idea of redirecting the knight to c4, from which he will cause some more incisive game and play on the center. So that's a very nice move. I like how I explained everything for a long time, and then I ended up just saying, and that's a very nice move. But it's a very nice move, so that's what I said. So okay, knight f8, knight c4, as expected, knight g6, this is also very natural, and here comes d4. Finally Fabiano strikes at the center, and here bishop to e6 was played. I personally really like this move. I think it's very natural. You're simply developing the last piece, but the engine doesn't really like it. Actually, the engine prefers something like queen h4, creating some tension in the center after black takes, maybe, you know, setting up some sacrifices. The knight is already on some good squares. If the knight jumps to f4, keep in mind the move g3 with a fork never works because of knight takes h3 with check, and then the queen can simply move. So you know, it's quite tricky, but bishop e6 was played by Hans, so what you gotta do? Knight takes d6, c takes d6, and maybe Hans thought that this position was fine for him, because look, now the structure is fixed, but Caruana saw much further. He starts with d5, and even d5 is a move that the engine doesn't really like, but I personally really do. So I like how in this game those super grandmasters are really playing some human chess, and the engine instead is saying other things. And this is not a reference to the Hans drama, by the way. I'm not ironic. I genuinely like how they're playing. I just wanted to clarify that. The best move according to the engine is d takes e5, and after d takes c5, queen takes d8, rook e takes d8, rook a to d1, rook takes d1, rook takes d1, and basically the engine is saying white takes the open file, and that's it. But the problem is, it's good to have an open file if you can infiltrate, okay? But here you cannot go to d7 because there is the bishop, you cannot go to d8. So like the engine is basically saying I can grind this forever, I can play hundreds moves game, right? But humanly speaking, I don't like this. Instead, Fabiano, by playing d5, after c takes d5 and knight takes d5, is saying, listen, you have a backward pawn, I have fixed it with my knight, I'm going to double the heavy pieces, play c4, b3, and I'll have a clear target. So again, I really like this way of thinking. Queen to d7 by Hans, obviously trying to, you know, allow a rook to also come into the defense of d6. Queen to d3 was played, ready to double up on the d file, and here bishop takes d5. Again, the engine may not like this, but the reason why bishop takes d5 was played is the following. If you capture with the pawn, well, then goodbyes to all of the hopes of targeting the weakness. And once you play queen takes d5, as Fabiano did, here there is knight e7, attacking the queen, very important. The queen moves, and here d5. So Hans is able to relinquish the pressure that there is on this center, on this backward d pawn. And so again, I really like this way of playing, and the engine is like, inaccuracy, 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 we don't care about the engine. I'm not even gonna mention it anymore. No, I probably do. But okay, e takes d5, queen takes d5, rook f to d1, and here rook e to d8. So it looks like Fabiano has to trade everything in the center. And it's very tempting to do so, especially if you are a strong player. But Fabiano, despite being a strong player, plays the best move, which is queen to e2. Now you may be confused by what I just said, but the reason is, look at this, after queen takes d5, if you take with the rook, this is possible, but then rook takes, knight takes, rook to d1, yes, you can take my bishop, but then I will infiltrate, and now my rook may have actually some chances of creating trouble. So here you want to take with the knight. And the reason why I say that for a strong player this is tempting to play queen takes d5 is because after knight takes d5 there is a tactic. It's just quite advanced, but Fabiano is advanced, so definitely he saw this. He saw bishop takes a7, that's the tactic. And the idea is that this rook is defending the knight, and this rook is defending the other rook. So once rook takes a7 is played, this rook is undefended, meaning c4 wins the piece. And so after king f8, trying to play king e8 or king e7 to defend the rook and move the knight, here there is c takes d5 and king e7. Here black is down a pawn. That's why I'm saying that for Fabiano this must have been tempting, but actually this is equal, because this pawn is a little bit overextended, and the issue is if you try to defend it, this pawn then falls. Right? And so this would have been equal. Fabiano understands this, so he plays queen e2, which is also objectively equal, but keeps more pieces on the board, giving himself more chances. So I really like the way Fabiano is playing, not only in this game, but also in this period in time, late 2023. I really like this. So queen to a5 was played, trying to keep the queen active. Here queen to g4, and here he goes. As soon as you start to put some serious heavy pressure, here there is the threat of bishop h6 threatening mate, the blunders start to occur. And here Hans played queen to a6. Queen to a6 looks like a very logical, sensible move. He's guarding a6. Also, there are some tactics on a7 still, and so the queen is now defending all of these squares and h6. But this is a blunder, ladies and gentlemen. Better would have been queen c7. Actually, again, the engine, what we gotta do. And the point is that after bishop to h6 and knight g6, not only the attack here is reduced, but also the queen is in a more active square, because he's pressuring c2, so occupying the semi-open file, and is nicely cooperating in the control of the d file. But again, queen to a6, very, very natural move. What you gotta say? So rook takes d8, and the reason why this is lost, because you may look at this position and say, bro, I don't understand. Black is controlling the open file. Obviously, if you play rook d1, this cannot be the best approach, right? Because black simply takes, and then white has nothing. So I don't understand. If bishop to h6, there are two moves. One, simply queen takes h6 winning, but even if I didn't have this move, knight g6, bishop takes a7, forget about it, the queen is defending it. So what I will say is, feel free to stop the video, guys, in this position, or wait until I finish to drink my water, and try to find the best move for white. And keep in mind, obviously, I pose tricky questions all the time, right? And I try to trick you. So this is an advice. Okay, so the reason why I say that I pose tricky questions and I try to trick you all the time is because I told you in the beginning that rook d1 obviously is the wrong approach, but it's the best move. You know, that's how I do it. So rook to d1 is the best approach, but it doesn't seem like it, because you're trading rooks. How can this be winning? But this is a very specific situation. In the game, Hans played a shocking move. He played rook a8. What? But actually, I'm going to show you a couple of variations. You will understand this move is sensible. Now, Fabiano, amazing job, calculated everything, phenomenal stuff. Here you have two moves mainly. One is rook takes d1, and the other one is queen a5 defending the rook. Now, if you play rook takes d1, which seems humanly the most logical, well, Fabiano and Hans, both of them, props to both of them, calculated queen takes d1, threatening checkmate, and here you have two moves. The first move is queen a5 defending from the checkmate, and knight g6 with the idea knight f8. If you play knight g6, again, the most natural human move, there is queen d8 check, knight f8, and as I always say, sometimes in chess geometry is crazy, look at that, bishop to c5. The knight is attacked, the knight is pinned, there is no way for this queen to defend. And this is just totally winning for white. It's just crazy. After queen to d1, the other option is queen a5, but now queen d7, threatening the knight and threatening queen e8. At this point, the only move you have literally is knight g6, but now check. And after, it's very important to check from here. And after knight f8, bishop c5, again, same thing as before, this just wins the knight and the game. Now, just a subtlety, guys, after knight g6, if you check here, which looks more natural, after knight to f8, It just so happened that here white wins anyways with a3, but keep notice, bishop c5 here is not possible, because the queen not being on c8 doesn't defend the bishop, so queen takes c5 wins for black actually. I just wanted to give you these subtleties so that you appreciate the position a little bit better. Now, after rook d1, again, we discuss what happened on rook takes d1, right? But my question is, what happened if you defend the rook, right? If you defend the rook, there is rook takes d8, queen takes d8, and it looks like everything is fine. But the engine, but not only the engine, also Fabiano and Hans, like both players playing amazing chess, thinking amazing chess, they saw that bishop takes a7, that after all the crazy variations I showed you is a little bit anticlimactic, is actually best. And here white is just winning. Like, what can you do? Let's say queen a5, right? Attacking the pawn, attacking the bishop, you're gonna gain back material, right? Wrong, because there is queen to d7. You don't care about the bishop, there is the threat of mate. And after knight g6, same thing as before. Queen c8, important to go on c8 before, because of the before mentioned reasons. Knight to f8, bishop c5, again, just wins the game. Crazy geometries. From now on, I won't annoy you anymore with variations. We are gonna see the end of the game very, very quickly. We are already 16 minutes in. Let's go. Rook to a8 was played. Then now you understand, moving the pieces out of the way is actually the best thing to do. Rook to d7, attacking the knight. This is infiltration. Knight g6, queen back to f3, threatening queen takes f7 with mate to follow. Queen takes a2, which is not to win a pawn, is to defend f7. But now b3 is such a beautiful move. Fabiano is playing so well. The point is that this queen is out of the game, and f7 is still under attack. So knight h8 is basically forced. Queen takes b7, and here, you know, attacking the rook. So rook to e8, trying to find some activity, but now queen to c6. And if we stop just for a second, this queen is better than this queen, this rook is better than this rook, and this bishop, well, do I have to comment on this? I don't think so. So, okay, h6, rook takes a7, you know, everything is defended. I don't know why the arrow goes from the rook to the bishop. It's actually the bishop who's defending the rook, but you know it. So queen to b1 check, king to h2, rook to f8, and now queen to c4. Again, I want you guys to appreciate this. Queen c4 is the best move in the position. It's a beautiful geometrical move. You see, white's idea, Fabiano's idea, is just to promote this pawn. And queen c4 defends b4, defends b5, already was defending b6, a7, the path for the pawn is unstoppable. Beautiful move. Rook d8 by Hans, trying to find counterplay, b4, no one cares. Rook to b8, c3, defending. Here, obviously, if you push, it's a little bit too much. You just lose the pawn, so c3. And again, white has two connected passed pawns. What do you gotta do? Rook d8, but this obviously allows, after queen to a2, trying to trade queens. Going into an endgame is winning for white, obviously, so queen to e4. It allows b5. And look at that, b6, b7 is coming. This bishop is just amazing. King h7 was played. You may look at this move and look at it weird, but no, here this is unpinning the pawn. Hans has to play f5, f4. This is the only counterplay that he has, so this is very sensible. But now b6. Fabiano just goes for it. And after f5, ladies and gentlemen, Fabiano married the geometry. He just did, because he just goes so well with it. Queen to a4, trying to trade queens. Obviously, Hans has to decline. Queen b1. The queen went to a4 to transfer to h4, so queen h4. The queen went, just instant replay, okay? Queen a4, queen h4, attacking the rook has to move, and now queen e7, so he did all of this crazy geometry, threatening mate and the rook, forcing rook to g6, and after queen takes e5, which he saw from the moment he was here, so he did all of this craziness, okay, to go on e5, and in this position Hans resigned the game. He just did, because there's nothing here. The two pawns are eliminated, and that's it. Now the game may have continued with queen f1, threatening the pawn, g3, And it's as simple as that. This bishop is an hero. Everything is defended. f4 out of desperation. Queen takes f4. This queen just went around the board and it's just amazing. Rook g5 trying to finally reactivate this knight. Tell me the truth, you forgot about the knight, didn't you? Because I did. But Rook g5 trying to reactivate it, b7. This is not even, I don't even know if this is the best move, but b7 is just winning, making 9 for white. Let's say that you try Rook b5, trying to prevent this pawn from promoting. Yeah, that's the best move. Queen takes h6, ladies and gentlemen. And after g takes h6, you are promoting with check. And after the king moves to g6, I'm just gonna use the arrows now. Check, check with the pawn, check, and checkmate. And that's why after queen takes e5, move 41, Hans resigned the game. Fabiano Caruana, 2 out of 2 at the Isle of Man. Unbelievable. He is over 2800 again after a long time. He is not over 9000, but he's basically there. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your chess.